Good evening, everyone. This is the October 9, 2024 meeting of the Auburn Conservation Commission. This meeting is being operated as a hybrid format under Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. The public can join the meeting remotely by dialing 408-650-3123 and then using access code 942-845-549. You can also join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join/942-845-549. So materials for tonight's meeting have been provided to the commissioners. They're available on the town's website, and the public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. My name is Michael Garland. I'm chairman of the commission. Before we begin, let me confirm members who are present for tonight's hearing. Tom Fallon.
Here.
Mark Sclammo.
Here.
Megan Langley.
Here.
Adam Maynard.
Here.
Okay. Please also note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television if you want to see it later. And I would, if you are going to be speaking tonight, wait until we call on you, and when you want to give testimony or ask questions, please state your name and your address as well. So without further ado, the first item on our agenda for tonight, Town of Auburn, a notice of intent for property at 10 Prospect Street /798 Washington Street to demolish, regrade, and stabilize site of an existing restaurant building within bordering land subject to flooding and or vegetated wetland buffer zone. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed to vote. Mr. Allen?
Good evening, Arthur Allen from Ecotech Incorporated. With me tonight is Steve Coleman, representing the fire department. Who's the proponent here. And I have green certificates of mailing receipts, if anyone wants those.
Oh, yeah.
And I also received a call this afternoon from Miss Hulkren. She was asking about the file number. Brooke Hulkren from the
Okay.
town. So I gave her the file number, but here's a copy of the DEP
Very good.
file number in case it wasn't in your file.
Okay.
We do have a DEP file number issued September 30th. There was one comment from DEP. It pertained to bordering land subject to flooding. And if you're familiar with the site, it's the former restaurant building at the corner of Washington Street and Prospect Street. We have a bordering vegetated wetland adjacent to the site, basically runs along the property line at the toe of historic fill. There's essentially a paved driveway right adjacent to the wetland. The slope drops off and the wetlands at the toe slope associated with an intermittent stream over to this side of the site. The project pertains to demolition, removal of the building, and basically just restoring that slope and stabilizing it proposed with asphalt millings at this point, just to stabilize that footprint of the existing building. There's a siltation barrier proposed along the edge of the wetland to protect the wetland during the work. And that's essentially the whole project at this point. I've highlighted in pink where the flood zone A cuts through the existing building, and then it continues along through the site. DEP's comment pertained to the fact that there was no base flood elevation, and if you're familiar with the way those FEMA maps work, they typically map either a zone A or a zone AE, and a zone AE is a zone A with an elevation. So that's where flood studies have been done, elevations have been established. But a lot of the flood zones out there are just zone A's. They're basically just blobs. They cut through contours. They don't really represent an elevation. But that's where the flood elevation is mapped. DEP's comment was there's no base flood elevation, which, obviously there is none in a zone A. And they asked us to establish one and prepare and submit a revised plan. I've gotten that comment several times from DEP in the last few months on several different projects. These zone A's are out there all over, and in my 30 years, you know, we've just had either the zone A shown on the plan or the zone AE with an elevation if one exists. But, and if we're in the zone A or AE, then we act accordingly. If we're out of it, we're out of it. In this last several months where DEP has made these comments, this has been the first time I've seen them ask for the elevation to be calculated. In order to do that calculation requires a watershed study, a flood study, which typically people do if they're contesting the flood mapping. I mean, we're not contesting the mapping, and the DEP regulations say in the event of a conflict, the commission can request or require a flood study be done. Again, this project is removing that restaurant from the flood zone. So basically, you know, we're returning flood volume within that whole area where that, you know, fixed building is. The building is not permeable, it's not open, it's taking up flood volume. So we're removing that, you know, increasing the flood volume on the site. We don't believe there's a conflict. I had a dialogue with DEP over several days about this because I need to clarify it for myself. Why are they asking for these flood studies? There's no conflict that we're aware of. The last response I got from DEP was, thank you. This is Brianna Wiegel, environmental analyst, DEP, on October 7th. And she's responding to the engineer who was also involved in the conversation. Hi, Patrick. Thank you for reaching out and offering additional information. I'm aware of the flood insurance studies performed by FEMA and their absence in certain locations. Mass DEP has provided comments for the applicant and the commission to consider in their review per 310 CMR 10.5723 if there's a conflict of opinion on the extent of BLSF bordering the subject flooding depicted on site plans. The commission may request the applicant to determine the boundary of BLSF by engineering calculations. 310 CMR 10.57 2A3A to C gives specific parameters regarding how these calculations should be performed. So basically, initially they said we need to provide those, and now she's coming back after I quoted the regulations to her, saying in the event of a conflict, the commission can require that.
Or to use football parlance, they punted.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not aware of any conflict. I mean, we've shown the zone A. We're taking material out of the zone A. We're not putting anything in. We're increasing flood storage on the site. I don't believe there's a conflict. So, but that's obviously your purview.
I just have one question. When was the last time this area flooded? I mean, is there any information, is there any anecdotal evidence that suggesting this area did flood at some point?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, the engineer provided calculations. He did not provide a revised plan, but his calculation is based on the current storm events and looking at the elevation, comparing it to adjacent sites. His opinion is the actual flood elevation would not extend up out of the wetland boundary. So, I mean, we can, in future plans, I mean, if we're proposing any work, I believe they're moving the building to a different part of the site, away from the wetland and
Right.
away from the flood. We're not at that stage yet. Those plans have not been prepared, but again, if we're proposing any work in the future in that part of the site, we can provide calculations and a revised, flood elevation. But I don't think it's germane for this project. I'm not aware of any flooding problems on the site outside of the wetlands. So, I don't believe there's an issue, and I believe that's the only comment I've received from anybody was the DEP comment on the flood elevation.
Mr. Slammer and I had the opportunity to walk the site with the chief on Saturday.
Sorry I couldn't be there.
No worries. And, everything appeared as is shown on your plan, so I don't have any questions. I think, it's very straightforward. Obviously, I think based on my review of your submittal, you put in appropriate erosion control measures and taken appropriate precautions so that when the building is demolished, none of that material will end up in the wetland area. So that's just my opinion. based on my walking the site and also looking at your submittal.
Great.
So I have no other questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I was able to look at the plans today, a little bit in depth. Looking at the plan here, I noticed that there's a showing where it's encumberancing into the 25 no-build zone. There's no dimension on any of these three plans, how far that actually is. I'm assuming it looks, I would say, my guess would be, it'd be like 23 feet or something like that.
Yeah, about, looks like about 2 feet, the existing building.
Now, the other thing is, on page 2, on the scope of work here, you have remove underground propane from building to tanks. Now, I know you're in front of us now just for the building, but obviously that's something we want to look at. It's propane, it's not the same as like liquid fuel, like oil or gas or something like that, but it's just something that we need to consider
Right,
at the appropriate time.
sure,
Um,
understood.
But other than that, I wasn't able to make the visit today, but yeah, I have no further questions.
Nope, nope, I was there Saturday, everything looks good.
Megan, any questions? No. Okay, is there any public comment? All right. So if I have a question for Chief Coleman, if he doesn't mind. When would you want to start demolition of the building?
So just to go back, all of the utilities have been cut to the property. The propane has been removed. That was done immediately once the town has took possession of the building.
Excellent.
So if the commission votes this evening, the 10-day window would start tomorrow. We've been in contact with the demo company. They're gonna move in, start installing fences and things like that. And they're hoping the week of the 23rd, which would be on that 10-day period, they're hoping to start demolition that week of the 23rd.
Fantastic.
All right, I see we have a number of people who are online. To those of you that can hear me, do any of you have any comments relating to 10 Prospect Street, 798 Washington Street? There being none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing?
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed to vote. All right, we will, in all likelihood, render a decision this evening. So thank you for your presentation and have a nice evening.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much to the commission. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good to see you, folks.
Good to see you too. Okay, the next matter on our agenda is Joe Goodman, notice of intent for after-the-fact work at 9 Maria Avenue. And this is a continuance from the last meeting on September 25th. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. Good evening again. Can you just state your name for the record?
Yes, Kate O'Donnell from Ecotech, wetland scientist, here for Joe Goodman. So since our last meeting about 2 weeks ago, we did receive the DEP file number, and they had a couple comments, which I can go through.
Please.
All right, sure, I'll start off. So the first one was about sediment deposits that we had observed and noted in our wetland report and on the site plan. I don't know if you guys ended up going to the site. I think we had discussed that at the last meeting. If you guys had seen those sediment, we put flags out there.
Did you all go? I wasn't able to.
No.
No, okay. Well, there are red flags marking out the sediment deposits that were observed in the wetland. They are relatively small, and it's unclear whether it was from the site work that was done at the site and the drainage ditch that flows down that area and from the stormwater. I think we discussed that at the last meeting. But it's unclear if that had happened prior to the site disturbance or before, but nonetheless, it is something we observed, and the DP comment states that if the commission would like to require a wetland restoration plan and monitoring period through separate corrective action, that's at your discretion. The next one is about any destabilized or eroded areas beyond where the erosion controls are at the site. I don't believe there's any additional unstable areas, but they recommend stabilizing it with a native seed mix. The next one is similar to a comment that you guys all had at the last hearing, is that the commission should consider requiring stabilization methods because it's such a steep slope. And they suggest erosion control blankets. And I believe there were some erosion control blankets added underneath where it was hydroseeded. So it is, I mean, again, it is, I went out there in June, the site had been hydroseeded and pretty stable when I was there. And then the last comment that they had was that they think the commission should verify if the drainage ditch that we had discussed would be considered a jurisdictional stream channel, which under the Wetlands Protection Act, if a stream, a channel is considered a jurisdictional stream if it's flowing within or out of a vegetated wetland. And based on our assessment, when we were at the site, we did not observe any vegetated wetlands upgradient of the channel or within the channel. And it was our determination, it was our opinion that it was a upgradient drainage channel carrying stormwater. So I believe that's everything. You know, we were happy to have a site walk if you guys needed to confirm that the site was stable and to determine if any additional stabilization or armoring or anything was required.
So, there's another issue
Yes.
that you need to be aware of.
Okay.
When we, as you know, Mr. Goodman had basically started work on the site without notifying us. And to the point where we issued an enforcement order, and he had been instructed by our board to issue a notice of intent no later than June 12th.
Okay.
We met on June 12th, and we had not received a notice of intent from Mr. Goodman or from his company, Quality Worcester LLC. And we took a vote at our June 12th meeting indicating that because he'd failed to do so, it was our determination that he be assessed a penalty of $100 a day beginning on June 13th. We sent him a letter to that effect, and we said to him, and this is a direct quote from my letter, the fine will continue to accrue each day until a notice of intent is received by the town of Auburn. I don't know when you were retained, meaning Ecotech, but I do know in looking at the submittal that, and I think this is being generous actually, that the date of your notice of intent was September 5. I calculated the number of days between June 13th and September 5 and came up with 85 days.
Okay.
As a result, there are fines against Mr. Goodman, or against specifically his company, in the amount of $8,500. There is, under the Auburn bylaws, Chapter 9, or it's actually 9.4, licenses of delinquent taxpayers, and again, I'll read this into the record. Any town board, commission, officer, or department shall deny any application or revoke or suspend any local license, including renewals and transfers, for any person, corporation, or business enterprise who has neglected or refused to pay any local taxes, fees, assessments, betterments, or any other municipal charges, or with respect to any activity, event, or other matter which is the subject of such license, and which activity, event, or matter is carried out or exercised, or is to be carried out or exercised on or about real estate whose owner has neglected or refused to pay any local taxes, fees, assessments, betterments, or any other municipal charges. So we believe that based on Mr. Again, I have to correct myself, based on the failure of Quality Worcester LLC to having not filed the notice of intent by June 12th, 2024, and having been assessed a fine of $100 a day beginning on June 13th of 2024, and the notice of intent not having been filed until September 5 of 2024, there remains outstanding, and again, I'm giving credit to the date that the notice of intent was filed, so there remains outstanding fines in the amount of $8,500. And it is, and I've spoken to town council about this, and it is my opinion as well that we cannot act on the notice of intent until the fines of $8,500 are arranged or some sort of agreement is reached with the town of Auburn to satisfy the outstanding fines. My suggestion is that this matter be continued for a period of 2 weeks to our meeting on October 23rd. I would encourage the owner of Quality Worcester LLC to contact the town regarding the outstanding fines and to see if he can arrange an accommodation. I believe based on 9.14 of the Auburn bylaws that if no arrangement is made, that in fact we are within, I think actually we're mandated by the bylaw to deny the notice of intent for this property. So,
I understand.
can I have a motion, please, to continue the public hearing to October 23rd at 7 o'clock?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed to vote. All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, the next matter on our agenda was supposed to be Timothy Johnson, notice of intent for property at 25 Vinyl Street to construct a residential subdivision on the property. I have been advised by Mr. Maynard that there was a request made yesterday to continue the public hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so, and just so you know, the first I heard of it was right before the meeting began, so I apologize for your inconvenience. I'd be annoyed too. Is there a motion to continue the public hearing for 25 Vinyl Street?
I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 25 Vinyl Street to the next meeting on 10/23
At 7:05?
at 7:05.
Okay, is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Mark? Say aye.
Oh, aye, I'm sorry.
Opposed?
Great.
Vote. All right, very good. Thank you. And then the next matter on our agenda, Michael Marinus of Insight Engineering, notice of intent for property at 47 Rockland Road. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed to vote. All right, is anyone here on behalf of 47 Rockland Road? Please come up, sir.
Thank you for having me. The owner is here as well, if you want to speak with them directly.
All right. Go ahead.
So subsequent to our last meeting, I can get into the history of the project if you'd like, or we can just continue forward.
I think a little background would be
Okay,
helpful.
sure. So this is an application for 4749 Rockland Property Management, which is an existing 6-acre site with a 21,300 square foot warehouse building and access road and truck parking area. It's pre-existing non-conforming use. I prepared the notice of intent to the Conservation Commission, I think it was in June. We had a hearing. We came back and I believe there wasn't a quorum, so, and then also subsequent to that, I made application for major land disturbance permit, which is what the board had advised last time we were here. Prepared a stormwater management report, erosion control plan. That's been submitted to the town. I received comments from the town engineer. I've addressed those comments. That's generally where we stand now with the project.
All right, so where are you in, you have to file with ZBA, correct?
We have not filed with the ZBA.
Okay, you're not required to?
I think that was being discussed with the attorney directly to the town.
All right. So what, aside from the Conservation Commission, what is your status with any other board of the town?
I've only made application with the notice of intent and the land disturbance permit application.
All right, so describe, if you would, what's the current use of the property? What's the proposed use for the property?
There's a warehouse building, pre-existing non-conforming with regard to zoning, and will be continued, the continued use.
Right.
No proposed improvements other than the stormwater management system that I was asked to design per the town engineer. The site has been stabilized. There were some issues with, or questions that came from the town with regard to some clearing. The site's been stabilized. There is silt fence out there. The slopes have been stabilized. I was out there today. Everything is in good order with regard to preventing erosion.
When was the last time we walked the site? Was it in the spring?
Yeah, springtime.
Okay. I mean, I haven't had an opportunity to walk the site again. I'd like to do that.
Sure.
Um,
Quick question through the chair.
sure.
Is this jute netting, is this still the same as far as?
Jute, it's there.
Okay.
It has grown in.
Right,
So
that's
it's
what I
working.
figured,
Yes,
right,
the
that's
seed,
what I
you
was
can
curious
see the
to see.
seed coming
Yeah.
through. That area is 80% stabilized with grass.
Excellent.
I told them to
That's-
leave, I wanted the jute mesh left there.
Yep.
There's no issue with leaving it there. It is included on the erosion control plan as well. So
Okay, great.
the owner took the initiative to do that work once he was made aware of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I've included that on the plan, which has been submitted to the town.
Great.
What's the most, I have like
Yes.
scattered bits of things. So
Sure,
what-
the most recent plans, which I can leave with you, or were emailed, they're dated 9/11/24. It consists of a site plan, an erosion control plan, and a stormwater management plan. I have them here.
I think this is,
That was the original plan that went with the notice of intent.
Yeah.
But subsequent to that, I was asked to prepare a stormwater management report, and these are the plans associated with that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more detail.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't have any other. Yeah, I don't think we received those, so we'll need those.
Okay, I failed to mention that one of the things that we didn't have previously was a detailed topographic survey. And that's what took a couple months to prepare, and that was the reason, that's what we were doing over the months of July and August before I was able to prepare these detailed drawings. So these were submitted to the engineering department, but I'm happy to leave these with you, or I can forward you the electronic copy, which was sent to Emma yesterday.
Yeah.
But I thought,
You know,
the email address
respectfully, sir, to submit updated drawings the day before the hearing or less than 24 hours
I don't expect you to.
is not acceptable to us.
Understood,
And
the
we
original.
have, excuse me, we have, I think, a specific rule saying that.
Yes, absolutely.
So we don't even have to consider those, but we're going to continue the public hearing anyway, so that we have an opportunity to walk the site.
Understood, the original application, these are the revised plans following engineering comment.
Right.
This original application was made over a month ago.
Okay.
So these plans were submitted to the town with the land disturbance permit application over a month ago.
And I'm told that we never got them. So I don't know where they
I
were.
received a response letter from the town,
what was submitted, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
the stormwater management report and a land disturbance application was made online. I have the,
Where was it sent, though? Was it sent to DPW and not inspectional services?
it was sent, it was submitted via the town website.
Well, that's, there are a lot of different departments on the
Okay,
town
I have
website.
I have the receipt.
Is there like a narrative part? I
Yes.
don't have like a narrative
I don't have
part
anything.
either.
We need hard copies anyways.
Okay, so
It wasn't submitted to a viewpoint, correct, through the building department? Because you're from this conservation.
stormwater at town, Auburn, May.
That's not
And-
conservation, sir.
Okay. Tell you that I have full responsibility. So this is the receipt that I received. Fees must be paid. Engineer may require, so I filed the land disturbance application online.
But that's different.
Different from what?
We don't handle land disturbance
Okay.
permits. The
Okay.
planning board does.
The notice
Or
of
select-
intent was filed even
DPW.
before that. That's what you were referring to before.
This is what I have for the notice of intent,
Right,
just like this,
Mhm.
but you're saying that there was like a more detailed narrative, right?
correct.
And
Yes.
we also need those, and those were not sent to the Conservation Commission. Like, it doesn't just come to us because it's sent to another department. It has to,
Okay, so what would you like me to do? I have all the information here. I have it electronically, however you like. We're
Well,
happy to resubmit.
We're gonna
I was
give-
aware that since it was revised yesterday, that was not gonna be reviewed or approved today.
so actually, you can send it to Dr. Maynard, and then he will distribute it to us.
Great.
But again, you've already agreed that we can continue the public hearing, so we can take a look, correct?
Yes, I do want to point out, we've been here before, a
Mhm.
couple times. The last time you weren't able to receive a quorum, so we've been delayed, not only by our end, but by your end as well.
Can't control what other if members don't show up. So, all right. Is any other questions from the board? Is there any public comment? So if you have any public comment, please step up and state your name and your address, please.
Richard Starr, 29 Rockland Road.
Okay, sir.
I'm just wondering why they don't have a DEP permit. It's a wetland.
Well, sir, do you have a DEP file number?
Do we have a DEP file number?
Yeah, if you filed a notice of intent, you should have gotten a DEP file number. Because it's supposed to be sent to DEP too.
Did go to DEP.
Okay. All right, we're gonna need a DEP file number. And sir, to your point, the reason why plans or notices of intent with plans are submitted to DEP is to enable them an opportunity to offer their comments.
Right. I
So-
talked to the DEP.
I'm sorry?
I called the DEP and asked them if they had, they said no.
They said they had not received this?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, any other comment?
Yes, please. I'll go quick.
You-
Tim Daly, 25 Rockland Road.
Okay.
I'm just kind of curious. We've been going at this since April 25th. And it takes that many months to come up with a plan. And it's not anything directed towards you. But it just seems like we're dragging our feet. And, it's just taking a long time. I think 6 months is a long time to come up with this plan. Meanwhile, and I know I can't talk about trucks, but meanwhile, trucks are going up and down the road at a rapid rate. And I just think that, if it is approved, what's gonna happen in the wintertime? Are we not gonna do the work that he has to do, or
Well, I think,
is it gonna?
I know you've been here on other occasions when the applicant wasn't present. And I think I've mentioned to you that, we have a certain jurisdiction. And so the issues that you're raising may very well be addressed to another board of the town.
Okay,
You know,
I don't
we
have
are,
a problem with you guys
yeah,
at all.
but my point was is that we are strictly here, we apply the Wetlands Protection Act, our bylaws and regulations, the Rivers Act if it applies. And that's really, we're limited to that sort of
I
jurisdiction.
understand,
Okay,
I don't have issues. The other comment I just have is that in the paper this week, it was announced that there is a zoning board meeting on October 18th. So I don't know
week.
what
Okay,
story is what story, but it just seems like the whole area is constant change. I get something from the town, I talk to the customer, he gives me different hours. It's just that, it just seems to be carried on and on and on and on. And,
okay,
most of the neighbors are now complaining.
all right, appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, sir. All right, so,
So
go ahead.
there's a zoning hearing for this project next week. So the attorney, like I said, the attorney was handling the zoning issues. Was not aware of it.
Okay, all right, I can accept that. You're gonna need a DEP file number. If this has not been submitted to the DEP, it needs to be submitted to them immediately. And, again, because we wanna take a walk of the site, because we haven't been out there in a while, do we have your permission to continue the public hearing to October 23rd at 7:10 PM?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's a vote. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I have Dr. Maynard's email address?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have a card on me. It's on the website. Don't have a card on me.
I think
think we met in the last room over there,
we did.
and
Sir, the public hearing's been closed.
Oh.
No, you can't make any other comments, sir.
Okay.
All right, we continue the public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. We have some other matters on our agenda for the evening. We have gotten a request for an extension for an order of conditions for 261 Prospect Street. Now, I note that the request was, or the order of conditions, I think, expired in March. And I'm trying to remember, I know that during COVID, there was legislation that was passed that extended the time for orders of conditions. And I do believe this is one of the projects that, or this project falls within the scope of that extension. So I do think, based on my memory of, and we had more of these early on when COVID was still a real problem than recently. But I think they're within that time period. So I think we do have the right to extend the order of conditions for 261 Prospect Street. So having said that, is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, is there a motion to extend the order of conditions for 261 Prospect Street? It would be another 3 years from, I guess, today's date.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote. Okay.
I believe, just to clarify for the other board members, this is that last lot with those houses that they developed on that part of Prospect, I believe.
Mhm.
That was the one that wasn't developed. I don't think they did a little bit of clearing, I think, but they didn't really do any kind of site work in there, I don't believe.
Yeah, and so obviously they
Last visit, yeah, so they haven't done anything
reserve
with
the
it.
right to do that.
Sure.
Okay. For Gutted Park, we got a plan, right?
Do we?
I think we did.
Like a new thing?
Well, I think it was,
I think I had a plan in the packet.
I thought I saw something. All right. In any event, let's move on.
I thought someone was gonna be here.
Yeah, and obviously they're not, so we'll just continue it to our next public hearing. Okay. We also, I'm jumping around a little bit. We got a letter from Mass DOT. They want to amend the order of conditions for the highway project, the bridge rehabilitation, which appears to be substantially complete.
They're online.
Was that from this packet? Where do I-
It was from this packet.
Oh, thank you. I'm not aware of it.
You'll have,
No.
I mean, I didn't see it, but who knows? I mean,
this is a letter that was sent to Jesse Verka, dated September 26th.
okay.
And again, I don't know if they intended to make a presentation, although, actually, are any one of you here on behalf of
We're here.
DOT? Well, thank you.
We are here in case you have questions.
Okay, so can you just state your name for the record, please, for our audience?
Yes, of course. My name is Kimberly DeGutis. I'm a professional wetland scientist with WSP representing MassDOT.
Okay,
And Andrew Johnson is the MassDOT wetland scientist. He's my colleague. So
And thank you all for your time this evening, by the way.
well, I'm glad that,
if I may, I can give you the egg timer presentation of why the request and the amendment is being requested.
Absolutely, please continue.
So the order of conditions was issued, and when the contractor went out to go construct the project, the contractor's wetland scientist had some questions in regards to the approved location, size, of the wetlands that were, the replication wetlands that were approved previously as part of the order of conditions. And because of that information request, myself representing the design engineer and MassDOT, which is Mr. Johnson, met on site in July to have a discussion to ameliorate the questions that were postulated by the contractors that were going to build the replication area. And we had decided in the field that consolidating 3 separate replication areas into essentially 2 and merging them with existing wetland systems on site would make more ecological sense than what had previously been permitted. So that is the amendment that you see in front of you, is to approve the change. There's no change in size. There's no change in seed type, essentially. It's just aggregating 3 separate areas into 2 and then making them immediately adjacent to existing wetland systems that are associated with intermittent streams that are known on site. And the intermittent streams, as we had done a field assessment, contain species that are pretty wet, actually. So we went out in July. July is a month that's known to be fairly dry. When we went out there, the rainfall totals were pretty below what is normal for average for that time of year. And there was still water in those drainage ditches. And so when we went out there, we said, if we expand the drainage ditches that you see in those plans, we think that that area will be much more successful as wetland replication associated with the project that was previously approved.
So what I have here, I see, I think, proposed replication areas with red crosses, but I don't see a plan that shows the 2 new replication areas.
It is, so what you'll see on sheet PDF page 7 of 25 is that we've X'd out an existing area and that we've added that total onto sheet 8 of 25, and we've taken that square footage and we've essentially expanded the existing ditch that's there. There's a second ditch that forms a Y. So what we've done is we've taken the 3 proposed areas, we've said we would like to realign those to the 2 areas that we're proposing, but that you see on sheet 8 of 25 in that PDF package.
I think maybe we're missing something.
I'm not sure that we have it.
It's landscape plan LA-4.
It should be the sheet that shows the 2 X's,
All right.
the 2 red X's.
We-
And then if you look towards the top of the page where it's labeled wetland 1 and then wetland 2, 3,007 square feet and 16,056. Those are the 2 areas where it's being proposed to be relocated, whereas the red X is over the area where this was initially designed.
So this says wetland 1 right there, and this is wetland 2.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
You could have highlighted that, but that's fine.
Yeah, just to reinforce what Kim said too, really the main driving force behind this plan change is just that we believe that we'll be able to create a much more successful wetland replication area at these 2 locations, whereas we're concerned with the other locations and with the overall success and functionality of the area. So we're just trying to improve the design to have greater chances of success in these achieving compliance with the applicable performance standards.
It's a hydrology issue. Primary.
Yeah, that's part of the driving force. Like what was initially designed as wetland 1 is kind of just tied to like two stormwater swales. So they're really driven by stormwater influence rather than by a groundwater table.
Okay.
So there was concerns that we wouldn't be able to establish the intended wetland conditions at that location. And as well, the other 2, with the 2 X'd out areas of what was initially designed as wetland 2 and wetland 3. We're concerned we won't have like the proper hydrology and connectivity to the existing adjoining BVW system, whereas where they're now proposed is further downgraded and will likely be able to intercept that groundwater continuously at an elevation appropriate to establish those conditions.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you. Any questions?
No? Sounds good.
Tom, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. You really clarified it for us, and I thank you for that. And I also thank you for your patience, because it looks like you were hanging out for a while.
No problem at all.
Having said that, is there a motion to close the hearing with respect to DOT's motion to amend the order of conditions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed to vote. All right, thank you very much. We will render a decision hopefully this evening.
Excellent. Thank you all
Thank you
for
very much.
All right, thank you. Okay. And then we received a request from O'Connell and O'Connell. They requested a certificate of compliance for an order of conditions from 1985. That was even before I was on the board.
I was
So-
a junior in high school.
I was 3.
I was older. So I mean, I think we probably need to take a look. I'm pretty confident that that whatever needed to be done was done because, it was, 39 years ago. But I think we should just take a look before we issue a certificate of compliance. So hopefully we can do something. Maybe we can look this weekend. And then we received correspondence from Webster 5. Apparently, a discovery was made of underground oil tanks, released contamination from underground oil tanks, which triggered a filing with DEP. I think they're just notifying us or letting us know of that status. So nothing for us to do at the present time. And then there's a complaint from Mr. Dan Horgan relating to a large tree root that's blocking the flow of a brook on Westview Street. So I was not aware of this. I'm not sure the pictures that he provided shed a lot of light or showed the condition he's complaining of, but I think we can take a look. So,
See the picture that they sent?
I did, I have it.
Yeah.
This one I can kind of tell something.
Okay. Oh, black and what?
Hold it sideways.
Oh. Is it blocking it though, really? And it looks like the tree root is connected to a tree, so. But more seriously, I mean, is there an ownership issue here? Who owns that tree? Is it on town land? Is it on the land of an abutter? So I think we need to take a look before we can really do anything about it. All right. We have a couple of orders of condition to issue. As you will recall, we closed the public hearing for 0 Cemetery Road, and we need to file or prepare the order of conditions for tonight's meeting to be within the 21-day period. So I had made some notes. So there was a concern about the installation of a barrier between what are called RCS1 soils and clean fill. There was also an issue or concern about maybe maintaining monitoring wells for a period of time. So, does anyone want to take a shot at a motion?
I would love to.
Go ahead, knock yourself out.
Okay. I don't want to do that.
Not literally.
All right. I would like to make a motion that we issue a standard order of conditions plus the following special conditions. Number is 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, number 8, number 9, number 11, number 13, and I would like to propose to the board a couple of added
Please.
phrases to it, and this is going to be a little bit of work in progress.
Sure.
I would like to add as a special condition that we can include the following narrative. Due to steep slopes, the Auburn Conservation Commission requests a construction sequence plan allowing the Auburn Conservation Commission to inspect erosion control measures in each phase and adjust to best management practices if necessary.
Okay.
And that's basically just because they're gonna be doing this in stages. Even though they're bringing all this fill, they're gonna have everything set up. Conditions can change. If we were to get another ungodly, flood event or something like that, obviously, it's something we'd have to take a look at.
Sure.
And that just allows us to ensure, the gentlemen and the people that came before us, this is gonna be a long-term project without a doubt. There's gonna be a lot of involvement, a lot of testing, everything else, but I just think that narrative would add something as far as controlling any runoff and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then the other, I'd like to propose that, I did a little research, and according to, like the gentleman said, they're required to test the soil of 1 test sample for every 500 yards of material brought in, which I figured out to be about 16 of those large truckloads, 1 sample. So what I would like to propose is that they would do additional random testing when they bring this material in. There's no set number, but
Well, do you want to put in a set number? And also, do you want them, it seems to me the way you get compliance is to put in a reporting requirement.
Mhm.
So, once you, to your point, whatever testing is done, would you want those results to be provided to the commission?
yes,
Okay, and how often do you want those results provided to the commission? Quarterly?
This is just it's being brought in, right?
this is right. So in other words, they're going to bring in 16 truckloads of approximately 30 yards per truckload of this material, which is about 500 cubic yards.
How about
And-
a test per
What
truckload?
What percent is that, like, of the total?
Well, what's 1 of 500? That would be
0.2%.
2%.
Or
It would be
0.02%.
2%.
Or 0.2 or 0.02.
0.02%.
0.02%. That's very small.
So it just kind of helps me to think of in terms of like percentage
Yeah.
of the total.
Well, think
amount.
of 1 sample out of 16 truckloads of material.
So how about a sample per truckload?
I don't know. I don't think it's too much to ask. I don't know what they normally do. I'm assuming that they do the test at the site. That I don't know the protocols for that, if they do it when the material's leaving one site or if it's.
What all are they tested? I guess we need to specify what they're testing.
They're testing for like all of the contaminants, the ones the no-nos.
So we're not requiring.
It would be, heavy metals.
Heavy metals, that kind of thing.
Arsenic,
The stuff they're getting rid of with the firefighter gear, the stuff that's really bad.
PFAS?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, I believe.
But it's
that-
already like established in the order of the notice of intent what those specific compounds are that they're.
I don't believe it is. I don't.
Well,
think
that's
it's
what, like,
stipulated.
if we need to be more specific, because if there's not of the specific list that we can say, oh, follow this protocol and just increase the sample
well,
size.
they said that what they're doing is most of the material being brought on site before they put in the clean fill are these RCS1 soils.
Right.
And I think that designation is from DEP. And I believe DEP has set limits on acceptable contaminants in the RCS1 soils.
Mhm.
So the purpose of the monitoring is to ensure that contaminants in the soil are below the maximums mandated by DEP.
Okay, so at least there's a standard to.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a standard they have to meet.
You know,
But
we
like
can-
I said, I believe personally, I think that that's just like a needle in a haystack.
I think one sample per truckload is reasonable.
And given that some of these sites where they get soil from, they come out and they look and they say, okay, yeah, we found like bad stuff here. That's like, get rid of that. That's super fun, clean up. This stuff's near it. They do a sample there and bring it to the truck and it's coming here and you don't really know.
Well, here's the question. I mean, okay, let's say, first of all, I don't know at what like pace they're bringing these on, but like if they're bringing 100 in a day or they're bringing like 2 in a day or what.
On a construction or something like that, they're probably gonna have no more than like 2 or 3 trucks would be my guess.
So
They have to find it too.
You know, the
Yeah,
other
well,
thing
it's,
is
they
this.
do a contract with the site and then and they bring it in, but they're not gonna have 20 trucks come in and try to bring it all in, especially with the location where it is,
So do they test it like before they bring
That
it
I don't know.
outside? Because it's like, oh, if you test it as you're getting ready, you grab a grab sample as you're offloading it, and then it comes back a fail. How does that help us prevent?
Exactly, yeah, I mean, if
So I'm
it comes out as a fail, they can't bring that material.
But if they've already, I guess it's just like, do we need to specify?
Well, all right. We can ask them to identify where they're getting the material from,
There we go,
okay?
like that.
And then, if any of the samples they provide to us exceed the DEP standards for RCS1 soils, they'll be in violation of the order of conditions and we can issue an enforcement order. And that's why they're gonna be required to provide us with their test results
Mhm.
for every truckload. Now, that's gonna be, that could potentially be a lot of data, but I think it's something we have to consider. And,
How would we enforce? How would we
I
enforce
just told you.
it?
we issue an enforcement order.
But what would the enforcement order say if there's
A
already
cease and-
dumped?
A cease and desist.
Yeah, they have to stop.
We can order them to remove it.
Okay. I guess I'm like, should they be okay? If they already go and dump, I'm just like, should they be providing these results as
Yes.
they're like, I think I'm just wondering if we need to specify the cadence at which they provide them, like within X number of days of offloading it, because it doesn't seem realistic that, okay, if there's one fail sample, we're gonna ask them to remove an entire.
See, that's the thing. I don't know the entire protocol as far as when that soil gets tested. I'm assuming, and you shouldn't assume, that it's before that truck leaves the site where it's going. Because if they brought a truckload to a site and drove it from, let's say, a 20-mile radius, and then the truck goes there, and then it fails, now they have to take that soil, they have to bring it to a place where you can take in that failed soil with the contaminants, and it would be an absolute nightmare. And I'd find it hard to believe that a trucking company would, they would make sure that the soils on that truck is
Like there's
okay.
gotta be a quarantine period or something.
Right.
in
Well,
order
like
for it
what
to
I'm
be
saying is
effective.
they must test it before they bring it to the site because the trucking company would
That's
lose
what I
their
would
shirt.
hope. That's
They
what I
would
would
lose
hope.
their shirt
Well-
if they didn't.
Well, not only we'll tell them they have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That they have to provide one sample per truckload before it's delivered to the site.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure,
No,
like,
that's
if there's
fine.
things that we
From
need
what-
to be specific
From what they
about.
said, it was something to the effect of 80 to 100,000 cubic yards of fill, wasn't
a
it?
lot of fill.
So like
It's a
if you
huge
do the
amount of fill.
math, divide that by 500, that would be the number of samples that would take out of that much material. And it wouldn't be much, you're looking at, if it's 100,000, that's 200 samples out of that entire area. That's a very small amount, like we said, it was like 0.02. So I think that just by
Okay.
saying like we want a sample from each truck.
I think we need to work on the language, but I think we have
Mhm.
the concept down.
Sure.
Basically, one test of the RCS soils per truckload. The provider of the RCS soils name and location has to be provided,
Mhm.
and the testing must be done before the RCS1 soils are delivered to the site. And also put in that any test results, if test results taken of that truckload are above the limits mandated by DEP, that material cannot be taken to the site for use. And any violation of this condition will result in the issuance of an enforcement order and including the possible issuance of a cease and desist order. So I think that's good. I think that provides us with the protection we need and that the public needs. With res-
And then we're also gonna discuss, I think we need to come up with one more as far as the testing, because how we discussed with him, how like we wanted them to continue the testing.
Yeah.
Past a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I think, but let's talk about the barrier, because we talked about, this was a point that Michelle raised, I think, on more than one occasion. The installation of a barrier between the RCS one soils and the clean fill that's gonna eventually be put on the site. And so it's my opinion, we should make that as a requirement.
A barrier with a visual indicator.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, they said that was like what it is, like you dig down to a certain area and you
it's
see
like
it.
Yellow or
It's
green.
something that you could see to where people know that they've dug down into.
Okay, so if we wanna go out there to make sure they did it, are we gonna be asking them to, basically join us there, bring a shovel? When you
No.
say, my point though is
I think
that,
we would just need, we would just
Something
need
to
like pictures
indicate.
or confirmation as they're constructing, that
Okay.
there's like a picture of the
all right,
barrier laid
so
down.
the applicant will install a barrier between the RCS one soils and clean fill, and will provide us with visual evidence, or will provide us with images showing the installation of said barrier.
Yeah.
Okay,
They'd probably use some kind of like geotextile, like material,
That's, I think
something
this
like,
is like a
colored like a
geocell,
grain.
yeah.
And maybe they'd put it like here,
Yeah.
and then 1 foot here, so if they hit that first one, they still have a foot to go or something. I mean, I'd imagine they do it that
but they
way.
can do that, they can provide us
Yeah.
with that, pictures of that.
Mhm.
And then with respect to the monitoring wells, I thought for a minimum of 4 years after the project was completed.
I think
I-
that's fair.
I think that's fair.
Okay, so we're gonna have to figure out a way to put that in writing. But we understand the broad concepts, Adam, and I see Adam's been taking copious notes, so we'll figure it out. So having said that, is there a motion to approve our standard order conditions plus the special conditions and the added special conditions from Tom?
I still have more, sorry.
All right,
So we also had talked about that they would be providing a soil management plan and that there would be, as part of that, it didn't sound like this was necessarily going to be in the plan unless we specified it, that they needed to have a vegetation management plan.
right,
that
because
specifically
knotweed.
that specifically addressed the management of knotweed,
Mhm.
and methods to manage on site and also like prevent the
Yep.
export of it
Okay.
from the site. 'Cause I don't know.
Do we want to call it a soil and vegetative management plan, or how, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were talking. I mean, I went
Control.
back and reviewed the video, and it sounds like they're going to have a soil management plan. Like,
Okay.
so
To control knotweed.
Your concern is that somehow the knotweed will migrate off-site?
I don't. Here's what I'm thinking. They're going to have they have a bunch of knotweed.
Yeah,
And on the slopes, like where it's not buried like 20 feet deep,
Mhm.
it's going to come back.
back.
And if
Roger.
it's not being actually controlled chemically or something, I don't know what they're going to do. Like when they go out and mow, what do they do with their clippings? Do they send them to an offsite composting? What do they do with that? They have a huge area to
what
mow.
makes you think they're gonna cut the knotweed though? Why would they?
I mean,
They're gonna,
because they're going to be, I mean, do they want their space to be massively overgrown?
I can't speak to that. I mean,
Well, I just
think-
don't want to assume. I think that we need to specify that they should control.
All right.
I don't think they're gonna go from like, the base of the slope all the way up and maintain. They're probably likely just gonna leave at the very top of the area. But like you said, over time, once that knotweed gets reestablished on the banking, it's gonna come in sooner or later. I mean, it just
Yeah.
grows like crazy.
I mean, there's no way to really eradicate it, right?
Right.
No, that's not true. I mean, you can I'm not saying that it doesn't take. Like there is success with continued like several years treatment of glyphosate.
Okay.
As far as, is that what's the latest on that as far as like, if they treat it and it washes out and stuff, is it?
I mean, there are glyphosate, like rodeo is like labeled for use near water.
What
I
that's
mean,
they use?
glyphosate is actually has a lower half-life in soil than most other herbicides, like a lower
What's the
soil activity. I think it's like, I mean, it's usually like dissipates, like the soil activity is done within like a few days.
Really?
From what I've read, I mean, there is a lot, that there are a lot of concerns about like glyphosate being carcinogenic, et cetera.
That's.
But a lot of that is due to the additives and things that have been used in glyphosate, like the
How-
other chemicals that are used to deliver it with. And those are in
stuff
areas
that
where
makes you
people
stick to
have
the
been
plant.
spraying massive amounts on it in
How
like
about this?
agricultural areas.
How about this?
But I'm not saying that I'm saying that there should be a management plan.
Yeah,
I'm not
I agree.
saying
All right,
that you have to use this particular method, et cetera.
understood. So how about this? Applicant shall provide a vegetation management plan to strictly control knotweed located on the site
And prevent its export
And-
from the property.
and prevent its export from the property. Okay.
Yes.
Yep, I like that.
Okay. Any other additions, comments?
No.
Okay. There being none, is there a motion to approve an order of conditions plus the special conditions plus the extra special conditions? Well, they are extra.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed to vote. If you can
This is the
Break
worst,
those up,
this is
I'll
the
take a
worst
look
I've
at 'em.
seen on the board, and I've been on the board since
Yeah, it's
2010,
not
as
bad.
far as, it's just with the soil and where it is,
we'll
and,
figure it out.
but yeah.
And then
Bringing up a
finally,
lot of stuff.
for Prospect Street and 798 Washington Street, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we issue standard order of conditions plus the following special conditions. Actually, before we do this, I believe we need to make a vote upon issuing the waiver of the 25 no build zone, as far as, because they're gonna be,
Well, they're not building, they're demolishing.
okay. I just thought that it was like a no, I thought it was always like, they're not really
No disturbance.
right, no disturbance,
Eh.
which, that they're not building anything, but they're taking stuff down and they're gonna do it the right way.
Well, they didn't request a waiver, and because they're not constructing anything. So I don't think, actually, it applies.
Yeah, how we worded it was, if necessary, the site report serves as a formal request to waive the local 25-foot, they're calling it the zone setback requirement, is what Ecotech is calling it, actually.
All right, I mean, if, I'm
But-
not sure it's necessary, but if you
Okay.
want to make a motion to that effect,
Sure.
okay, go ahead.
I make a motion that we issue a waiver to the Town of Auburn Wetland Protection Regulation 2.06, given that it's just
The edge of the building.
the edge of the
is
building
23
that's
feet.
encroaching like 2 feet into the 25 no-build zone.
Okay,
And then with that in effect, I would like the special, standard order plus the following.
well, let's vote on your motion first. So there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed to vote. Okay,
Okay, and the following special conditions, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, number 8, number 9, number 11, number, they're only doing the construction phase?
they're only doing the demolition.
Right, so,
And,
and 14, because we,
right,
we gave them the, we said yes to the waiver, so.
okay.
Okay.
All right, so standard order plus 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 11, and 14.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It's a vote. Okay.
I just have one other question, Mike.
Sure.
I did get to see that report about the bank how they ran into an underground storage tank, because I guess the former use of that before they built the original bank was an underground gas
I think
station.
it was a gas station.
So
yeah.
they removed, according to that, they did remove the tanks, and brought in a consultant and took care of what they needed to take care of, so.
Right.
The memo's right there, the memo.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah, I have it too. I did see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, DP is definitely on top of it. There's a 24-hour reporting requirement once the presence, once there's a release or.
And that was
there's
brought up
evidence.
at the last meeting I saw, I made a note of that,
Yeah.
that Adam, that you were notified. I believe you received the notification.
They're good about that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's good. And, when they, I'm sure that we will have further dealings with them. This becomes an issue.
Sure.
All right. Is there any other new business? Any new business? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 It's a vote. All right, everyone.